Well, the planting of a tree in a beautiful garden on a spring day in Milan was a very moving experience, and it was especially moving that the tree was planted in honor of my hero and my country's hero, and also the hero of the Israeli, the Jewish nation, and American, because he was a naturalized American. So Jan Karski, an extraordinary man whom I had the honor to know and befriend when I was living in Washington. The fact that he found himself within a small group of honored by the Garden of the Righteous in Milan makes me especially proud, and the fact that he's the second Polish citizen after Marek Edelman, the fighter of the Warsaw Ghetto uprising, is also extremely pleasing. Thanks to people like Karski that we can remember the legacy of brave men who tried, and women who tried to carry the message of what was actually happening on Polish soil to the leaders of the free world of those days, 1939 through 1944. No, it is not difficult. It hurts to talk about the Shoah, but it's not a difficult question. Hundreds of young men and women are involved in research of what happened on Polish soil. It is important to remember that on September 1939, Hitler attacked Poland, and Poland was the first victim of the war. And 17 days later, the Soviets attacked Poland from the east, so Poland was actually crippled between the two powers that conspired together. So Karski joined the underground army together with thousands of young men and women, the best and brightest of the nation, and was lucky to survive, unlike most of them, to survive the war. Because of his many talents, he was chosen, he was assigned the role of the courier between the Polish underground state and the government in exile, which first resided in Paris, and then when Paris fell to Hitler, resided in London. So he traveled on missions back and forth, on missions to carry messages from Poland to London, or to Paris and then to London. I was asked yesterday, how come that he could travel? Well, Karski was not even his real name. He had many pseudonyms. He had a false identity. His real name was Jan Kozielewski. He was born in Łódź in 1914 in April. So we are actually talking a couple of days before his birthday on the 24th of April. He was the son of a humble saddle maker, a merchant who also produced saddles for sale in a large family, very devoutly Catholic, mainly thanks to his mother, because his father died very early and he was raised by his mother and older brother. He was a very talented young man, so he went on to gain a higher education at the University of Lwów, one of the best universities of Poland at that time, and studied law and diplomacy. He had a dream that he will become a Polish diplomat, and as a Polish patriot he wanted to make Poland meaningful in the free world of European countries of those days. Well, when the war broke out on September 1st, 1939, he was only 24 years old, the war changed all that. His plans for a career in public service to serve his country were completely cut at that time. Well, as Elie Wiesel said once, when he found out that Karski was alive, he thought he had long been dead. Teaching at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C., he got very involved in making the world aware of his existence, and he wrote a beautiful sentence, Jan Karski, more than a brave man, a just man. So Karski was indeed a very unusual and probably the most incredible individual I had met. He was very pragmatic, not sentimental, but held a very high standard of responsibility for one's own actions. He, as a professor of Georgetown University, he wrote books and he lectured students and answered, I think, his own question: how did it happen that the world knew about the death of millions of the Jews on the occupied territory of Poland? How did it happen that the world knew, because he told them, through articles, through meetings, through various conferences that he was asked to speak at, and after the war they denied and said it was a huge surprise. Why did it happen? And he answered these questions very eloquently. So at the Polish History Museum we have decided to create the program that we named Jan Karski, the Unfinished Mission. We feel that Jan Karski should be an authority for the Polish young people, but also for young people worldwide, because his story is not only the story, as I said, of courage and of a sense of duty to one's brother citizen, Polish or Jewish or Armenian or Russian, but it is also a story for which he himself risked his life many times when he was on his missions, traveling on foot, by train, with false passports, always afraid that he will be deconspired, because, for example, after his arrest by the Gestapo on his second mission, he had his teeth knocked out, he was tortured, and he had slit his wrists in an suicide attempt, because he felt he probably will not be able to bear the torture any longer, and he was afraid that he would start telling names. What we are trying to tell the young people is that it is not only about courage, but it is also about wisdom, about understanding the reality of the world, and that each young person should understand that it is important that we have international organizations and international governments and etc. But they do not function because of their collective wisdom. They function because they are individuals of moral courage and integrity who can make things happen. So hopefully this will lead to a new attempts to make this world a better place and avoid genocide, whether it's in Africa or in the Middle East or anywhere where it's taking place. Maybe as mankind we can come up with ways to avoid them before it is too late and before we have to pretend once again that we knew nothing about it.